Be free.
This is a Free Wild World podcast. I am your host, Chris Wade, and I'm sitting here with ANITA VIVIERS. Hello, Anita.
Good afternoon, Chris.
How are you doing?
I'm well, and how are you?
Great, thanks. So we have a very exciting topic today, and before we start delving into your personal background,
Sure.
I want to just explain to people, because some viewers out there might not know what we're talking about. And we're talking about ibogaine. Explain, what is ibogaine?
So ibogaine is a shrub grown in Gabon and in Central West Africa mostly, quite close to the equator. And there's various species of ibogaine. We use the Tabernante ibogaine, and we use the bark of the root that's got a psychoactive component in it to create an awake dream state for people, so that they can reset their brains, reset their behaviors, and bring a lightness of being to their life after a journey.
So tell us the difference, because there is ibogaine and there is iboga. So
Yes.
what is the difference there?
So iboga is the raw product. So that is the bark of the root of these shrubs that needs to be between 15 and 25 years old for the right psychoactive components to be strong enough and to induce an awake dream state. So the iboga is the one alkaloid, one of 12 alkaloids that gets found in the bark of the root of the Tabernante iboga plant from Gabon and Cameroon. So that's iboga. So the iboga consists of 12 alkaloids. One of the alkaloids is called ibogaine.
Okay.
And that is the difference between iboga and ibogaine. So ibogaine is one of 12 alkaloids in the iboga plant.
So is it more concentrated and powerful, basically?
Yes. Ibogaine, also gets in various forms. You get the HCl, that's the hydrochloric acid. You get the total alkaloid, the plant total alkaloid. HCl has gone through 2 extraction processes. So yes, that's the strongest. So personally, for the last 10 years, I've experimented with various consistencies of the iboga plant. And for the last 8 years, I've been specializing in using iboga and ibogaine together.
So now everybody knows what we're talking about. We're talking about a plant, and which is considered one of the plant medicines. And you do retreats with people. So now we need to know, how did you get to this space? How long have you been doing this, by the way?
Just over 10 years.
Okay.
Yes.
So what led up to you getting it? Tell us a bit about yourself, where you grew up, how you formed your mindset, and how you got to this point where you are helping other people in this process.
I was born into a very average strict Afrikaans family in Pretoria, raised very average life. But from an early age, I realized that my mom was using a lot of prescription medication. I call it switch on and switch off. It's like wake up and go to sleep, take pills.
We all know about the pills next to the table, the row of pills, right?
Well, in the kitchen cupboard.
Wherever.
On top cupboard, bottom cupboard, pills.
So that is something you noticed from early on?
From an early age, yeah. Sleeping pills, antidepressant pills, pills to cope, pills for pain.
Mother's little helpers.
Yes, in the bottles, in the boxes, and constantly always going to the doctor every week, once a month, twice a month. Yes.
And Sophie told you, this doesn't seem natural.
This doesn't seem right, because then it takes like months for the medication to start working. And then when it starts working, it's maybe like bliss in the house for like a few months, 6 months, 8 months maybe. And then all of a sudden the body starts getting used to the medicine and start resisting, building up a tolerance towards the medicine. And then we're back to square one with absolute chaos.
So what age were you here?
I was probably about 14 when I started realizing and starting noticing the patterns of how long these medications started to take to work, and then plateau and bliss in the house, and then something wasn't right.
At that
And then
age,
needs to go back to she needs to go back to the doctor again.
at that age, did you have a conversation about this?
Oh no, we don't
Just
speak
like-
about things like
Yeah.
that, remember?
Okay.
Don't speak about politics, we don't speak about sex, don't speak about pills.
Oh.
Kids should
And
be quiet.
your personal headspace, where were you as a 14-year-old?
Oh, well, I was the oldest of 3 children, and my sister was also hyperactive. So I was constantly like just seeing that she's not in stitches or falling out of a tree or so forth.
So you were like the responsible
Yes.
type, the caretaker in a way.
Yes.
Okay, so that explains a lot also why you choose to help people, obviously.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so take us from there.
So, yes, after school, started studying various things from fine art, drama, philosophy, the arts, ballroom, Latin American, but yeah, meditation, Academy of Future Science, studied various things, constantly studying, and still studying, yes, and various other modalities, massage therapy, crystal healing, tarot, divinations, permaculture, gardening, but always having a deep passion for plants, gardening.
Yeah.
And that is where the original medicine originated from.
Yeah. Before there were pharmacies.
Yeah, because prescription medications has only been around for about 150 years, maybe 200 years. The mass manufactured prescription medication out the bottles or the boxes. It's after the Second World War.
Yeah.
So I'm always asking with tears in my 2 blue eyes, how did all the thousands of generations heal themselves?
But I wonder about, but before we get there, I'm digressing now. I want to know, let's go back a little bit.
Sure.
When you grew up in your environment and you saw these things, were you a little bit the odd one out, do you think, in your family and your society? Or did you have conversations with other children about this? Like,
No. I was quite an introvert. I had the little signboard around my neck as Anita is the introvert and my late sister is the extrovert. So I was always like the observer and, seeing what's happening around me. Quite a bit of an academic. And so that was my school life.
I'm going to digress a little bit now on
Sure.
what you talked about the previous point, but we will get back to that quickly. So how did the past generations do it, but did they have better lifestyles? I don't know, now everybody grows really old and they go into hospital for weeks and slumber and eventually pass away. So obviously life is a lot more coddled now and we've got all these medications. So it's good and bad both, right? But we'll get to that. But that's a point we have to get back to later. Let's remember that point to get back to it. Natural medicine, the goods and the bads about it, and because everything has goods and bads, right? So you are a young student, you studied a lot of things, your mind is obviously open to try and get as much knowledge about stuff. You're curious. Okay, so we're there now. Take us from there.
Okay. From studying and going into the real world and going into young adulthood and always still exploring wild stuff, extreme sport, skydiving, cliff jumping, diving, sea diving, deep sea diving, and
So you had an orientation to get life experiences.
Yes, like a deep urge for life.
Yeah.
And when I left home, of course, it's like, yes,
Yeah.
world, out there, let's go and explore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then was it always just up or?
No, of course, it was like lots of ups and downs, but I always used to say, as long everything that goes up eventually must go down. But
what was your first connection with this type of idea of plants and this type of environment? Where was the first connection?
well, I think the psychoactive plants was, I think when I was 22.
So that's young.
Yes. And that was probably psilocybin, magic
Okay.
mushrooms. Yeah.
Tell us about that first experience and what did it do to your mind?
Sure.
If you can remember.
I can't really exactly remember the very first experience. It in the club scene,
Yeah.
acid.
So it was more like a party.
LSD was probably my first one ever. But it was once, and then many years went past, and I didn't experience it again. And I think it was only when I was like 26 or 27 that I went into the trance scene. And dancing, of course, big dancer, exhibitionist on the speakers. And then
Is there a first experience that was kind of mind-blowing to you that you can remember about altering your mind? Is there one that stands out in the beginning or not?
No, there's not one specific one. It is just when you take mind-altering medicine, it gives you tremendous energy, and also to see more than the 3D, to see 4D and 5D, and to become weightless and not just being caught up in this physical world, in this physical bodies of us. So I think that was my first experience, was not being in my body, not being confined in my body. That I was weightless and had so much energy that I was like out of my body.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed that feeling.
So take us from the young party girl, experimenting with psychedelics, and where it becomes a bit more to the serious side where you consider this as a medicine.
Yes. Well, I think let's just like so from the party girl, of course, came I think wrong friends. Yeah, wrong environments, wrong friends. And it wasn't right or wrong, it was just that took me on the dark path as well of drugs.
Okay.
And that is what I call drugs. So there's a difference between medicine and drugs. Medicine is good for you, and it is not something that you want to use every day. Drugs is detrimental to your health, and you want to do it every day, and your body needs and craves it. I was very blessed that, well, although meeting wrong friends, it was only over weekends and not every day. So I still had a job. I still had to pay my bills. So I wasn't completely down.
You were functional?
Yes, I was functional, but only over weekends that I partied, and that went for about 4 years.
What is the first bad drug that they say you got in contact with? I don't know if you want to, how much you want to tell, reveal, I don't know. It's up to you.
Well, let's just say that, yeah, it's like when you stay up for like 2 days, 3 days, yeah, when it starts getting like detrimental to your health. Not sleeping, not eating properly, and finding yourself in the wrong environments.
Yeah.
Let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
Yes,
Like that.
yeah.
So you went through that phase. I think a lot of us go through that phase. I always went through my phase. For me personally, I always just wanted to experiment and with everything and see everything because I was just so curious.
Yes.
And I thought like I need to know the stuff. That was my, I don't know if it's a rationalization or an excuse, but that's how I thought about it. Okay. But then obviously you start maturing and you see what are you doing to yourself and to your environment. Okay. So take us to the next phase.
I think my life came crashing down when I was in a very toxic relationship for 8 years, a very abusive relationship that eventually I landed up beaten into a pulp after being tied up and drugged, like seriously, for 8 hours. And a toxic relationship that came to an end when I landed up in hospital, all the colors of the rainbow. That's when I realized this is the end of everything like this. So I walked away and that was when everything changed for me, when I landed in hospital, beaten up into a pulp by a boyfriend.
Well, how old were you then? What was your age?
I was about 35,
Okay.
I think. Yeah.
So by then you had a bit of life experience.
Yes.
Was this like one of your first loves? Was it a big love? Was it
No.
Not really.
No, it was. It wasn't a first love. No, there was many before him. But that was a game changer for me.
Yeah.
And he's probably one of the big catalysts why I'm working with this IBOGA medicine. Because IBOGA really changed my life around. Before IBOGA, well, let's go back. You asked me about my history. I did all the plant medicines from psilocybin. ayahuasca, San Pedro,
Yeah.
many journeys. And it was intense and it was mind-blowing and it was amazing and earth-shattering and soul-shattering and soul-exploring. But the effect was always short-lived. It's like maybe 2 weeks or 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks after psilocybin or ayahuasca or San Pedro. Then you were back to normal again. So that's when I did my first ibogaine journey in 2014 at the age of...
Before we get there, I want to, because we cannot skip quickly over the event that changed everything, because obviously that's severe trauma.
Yeah.
So how did you cope with it immediately after, before ibogaine? Did you do something to cope with it, or that phase?
Okay, yeah, that's a very important question. So in the 8 years, there was other incidences that was also abusive, but not that bad. And the last time it happened, it was actually like 4 weeks before it happened, I started a new job in corporate. And it was over Christmas. And of course, I couldn't report him to the police or make a case against him because I just started at a new company. And I mean, if that was just going to be detrimental to my career.
Yeah,
if this
keep
had
your
to
nose
come.
look clean.
Yeah. So I threw myself into my work, and
Did you feel you just suppressed a lot of stuff and
Yeah.
just worked?
yeah, I just worked like a demon. I jumped like a demon, and I was excelling in my job. Yes.
Because this is another important aspect. You were doing, you were open-minded, but you were very much in a corporate
Yes.
environment.
Yes.
Okay. So when did it start changing from there?
So after that incident, I really decided that things seriously had to change. And I took up professional boxing, just realizing that if ever anything like that will have to gonna happen, I'll have to be equipped to protect myself.
Thanks for warning me.
Yes. And I can switch. And then I become like demonically strong. I started gymming hard, like sometimes 3 hours a day as top fit, and worked extremely hard, and didn't engage with men ever again in an intimate relationship. I had them for breakfast only.
Okay, so vengeance.
But not in a close intimate relationships ever again for about 12 years.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes. And then
So 12 years it was working, concentrated, focusing on everything external from you.
yes.
Did you feel you avoided maybe the introspection side of that thing?
Well, I think to go back a little bit again, after the incident, it was 4 years of pretty much intense gymming, boxing, and I also started drinking alcohol. Yeah, and pacing my house at night, not engaging with new people, just had to protect myself, and also try to process what happened. And I couldn't speak to many people because who do you speak to about being physically beaten up, tied up, beaten up, escape, jumping over walls, through electric fences, dogs chasing you while you're drugged, landing in a cop station, and eventually in a hospital, and looking at yourself and like, what has happened here? All the colors of the rainbow. So
is it fair to say this was a victim stage? That like you were the one needing the healing here. This is before you started.
well, I don't think I've ever called myself the victim. I just like extracted myself from everybody.
Yeah.
I threw myself into my career, into my professional career, so I didn't deal with it.
So you also didn't look for any type of help outside of yourself?
No.
Okay.
No. For about 4 years after that, and then I started partying again, but still keeping everybody at bay.
So it's an emotional door that you shut. Nobody welcoming you anymore. You're out.
Yeah, everybody can just stay right there. I will be brilliant at what I do, and that is what I will excel in.
Control.
Control. What do I have control over? My own body. My job, my body. That's it.
I see this often. I saw a documentary the other day as well. A person, but she's very open about this as well, a lady, a top company, and exactly the same. She was abused, or I can't say any word here, but you know what I'm saying, when she was young, and she became extremely good at her job, and you can see all the surroundings is complete control. Controlling the relationships, controlling the environment is extremely neat and perfect. And I personally see this often in people that don't really deal with their trauma. The environment is extremely controlled. So was that your situation then as well?
That was very much so. I did do some other plant medicine journeys again, but like I said, it was always short-lived. 2009, that was another turning point, another turning year for me. I lost 5 people to death, and it started with my sister, who passed away in a motorbike accident, and then my cat of old age, and my previous neighbor committed suicide. My best friend was shot in Kensington in Johannesburg. Best friend, girlfriend. And then my spiritual master passed away.
Can you explain your spiritual master?
He was an elder. He was staying at the Brooklyn Yoga Connection in Pretoria. And he was just like my place of safety, you know, in crazy corporate world. When things were a bit much, I would go and have tea with him, and we'll speak about philosophy and spiritual matters and things like that. And he passed away at the age of 47. And I realized that
Death became real.
Death became real. Yeah, it wasn't just play. And it put me in a very short span of complete recluse, except for work. But then I realized, oh my goodness, this is trouble. This is serious stuff. Life is precious.
But did you have your own encounter with death as well then? No.
No.
Okay, it's just the people around you.
Two car accidents, but not serious.
Okay.
But serious enough to also just like give me a big fright to realize, oh my gosh, this could have been me.
You're not invincible.
No.
All powerful.
Yeah, I'm just made of flesh and blood as well. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did that change?
I think that was 2010. Yeah, that put me. Yeah, it was a cold year after that, and then my life started really spinning out of control, spiraling out of control on drugs again, and alcohol.
Is it family and work related? Everything in your life, or what specifically?
Well, it was the death of everybody that put me just in like, I couldn't care less anymore. Oh. And I was earning well, so I started partying too much. Between 2009 and 2014, that was the worst years. I started losing focus at work, making mistakes. I think the last 2 years, 2013, 2014, 2012, 2013, I was spiraling out. I couldn't keep my cool anymore. And personal relationships were slipping. Yeah, I was really going down.
What age are we talking now?
2013. So that's about 11 years ago.
Okay.
So I was 39.
Okay.
39 around there.
Yeah. That is also an age where you start looking back at your life also. So what am I doing with my life? What's happening?
Yeah, it's like in the middle of your life, like, where am I now?
Yeah.
Where have I come from? Where am I now? And where am I going?
Exactly.
It's like, is this where I want to carry on? And I realized, like, this is not what I want to carry on. I was burglared twice in that same period of time. Yeah, just a lot of bad stuff, ugly stuff, hectic stuff happened to me. You know, of course, but I mean, if you're on drugs, the whole world is against you and everything goes wrong.
But drugs is also a numbing effect, obviously.
Yeah, not dealing with emotions.
Not dealing with emotions, and this stuff doesn't go away. Like they say, kicking shit down the road doesn't make it go away,
no.
Right? So inside something is trying to break out. So this is like more like external signs of there's a vibe going on here, and you better take notice.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So that's when in 2014 I lost my job. Well, I was planning to resign, but then they fired me.
Yeah.
And then 2014 I was
Let's go back to
Yes.
the firing. That's important because that's another traumatic.
Yeah.
Losing your job, especially if
After 8 years of being very successful.
that's more compounded. We're talking about complex trauma here now. It's not a compounded figure out what led to that.
Well, it was really like just an accumulation of too many written warnings in my corporate job, not being the best anymore. And yeah, my life was just starting to slip away, partying too much.
But what were the warnings for? I'm trying to understand your state of mind. Was there kind of a arrogance, or what made that you overstep lines continuously in your job? Is there like?
Well,
did you
just
just
not being present, not being present, and not giving a damn.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right. So it's like a extreme form of denial. It's reaching to a point. Cool.
yeah. So
Was it a shock when you lost your job? Did you see it coming, or was it just like?
well, I was planning to actually resign
Okay.
later that year, and then they pulled the carpet underneath me a little bit 6 months before I actually planned to leave.
Right.
And that was quite a big shock. And then I didn't really actually have a job for like 8 months. Maxed out my credit cards, had the wrong friends, still had the wrong friends. And then I realized, okay, this is getting seriously bad. So yeah, then December 2014, I realized, okay, things need to seriously change. I need to find direction. Things seriously needed to change. And that's when I was very privileged to do my first IBOGAINE journey.
Okay.
Yes.
So, did you know about IBOGAINE long before that? Did you read up on it, or did it just come along?
I had friends that told me about it, and they started using it as a medicine for themselves and for others. So that was very much in the beginning days. IBOGAINE was very unknown. It was still illegal in South Africa in 2014. And I did a 5-day colon cleanse, coffee colonics, juice fast, to purify my body with this friends of mine, and in preparation for the IBOGAINE journey. And that's when I did the first IBOGAINE journey, which was extremely intense. And I didn't know what to expect, and nobody told me what to expect. And it was physically very hard. Emotionally, it was earth-shattering, the journey and the next day. But
Before we get to the actual journey,
yes.
I want to, because I'm interested, and I think viewers will also be, how does this happen? What is the setting? Take us through the process since the preparation. Who's the person what's the trust relationship, the first one you had? What did you do before? The actual day or night when you took it, how did that happen? Then we get to the...
Okay, sure. So it was a 5-day cleanse on their farm. So that was coffee colonics, juice fasting, saunaing, taking a lot of vitamins to push out toxins out of your body, niacin, vitamin D3, magnesium, a lot of supplements to push out toxins out of your body. A lot of walking, a lot of sweating, saunaing 4 hours a day, working up to 4 hours a day, cold showers.
Mentally, were you scared?
Well, this was all in physical preparation, and I trusted them.
Yeah.
So I really was in a very safe space with these friends of mine.
So these were your good friends?
Yes, that was good friends, yeah.
And the bad friends, were they still somewhere? Or?
No, that's when I left the city,
Okay,
and I
so
moved to Northwest Province.
Right. Okay, so that's a
Well, I basically went to do my cleanse and my first IBOGA journey. And after my journey, I decided I'm leaving the city.
Yeah.
I'm moving to the mountains.
Right.
This is what I want to do.
So how long was the stage? 5 days, did you say?
So the cleanse was 5 days. And then the journey was the one night, and then the
Is
next
it always
day.
a night thing? Is it like?
Yes, yes.
So how does it happen? How did you take it? Was there any kind of ritual about it, or was it just more? Let's explain the day you took it. What happened?
On the day of the journey, we spent a lot of the day in silence, journaling, writing, sitting in nature, meditating.
How many people?
No, just myself.
Just you.
Just myself. Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't in ceremony space. Like, yes, they burn candles and incense and energy cleansers.
But not all the hype, the spiritual hype. It was just, this is the...
Yes,
this
is a big day.
medication.
This is the big day that we've been building up the last 5 days to. There was 2 other ladies as well. But they were in their own rooms and so forth.
Okay.
And as the sun was setting, I took my first IBOGA capsules. And at that stage, I just took the IBOGA, not the ibogaine.
Okay.
So that is the pure one. With all the alkaloids. It's not that strong.
Capsule form.
Capsule forms, yeah.
With just water, I'm sure.
With just water, yeah. Yeah.
And then you sit and wait.
Well, then you lie on your bed and you wait for it to start working. So the first effects of the IBOGA medicine was when my body became like one big one with the bed. And it was pleasant and it was warm and fuzzy and my ears started buzzing like loud mosquitoes in the room.
Just a buzz.
Yeah, like a buzz. And I believe that is when the medicine like starts working through every cell in your body, because it cleans your body. It cleans every cell in your body of heavy metals, of toxins. And I believe that as the medicine moves through your body and through your ears and your head, that is the medicine interacting with your cells and your blood and your oxygen and every cell. That's when the vibration, well, that is how I interpret the buzz. Yeah.
That's the buzz.
Yes.
Right,
yes. And then I remembered like silly things, like pets that I had when a ginger cat that I had when I was 5, and he was drinking water at the tap.
So it's very internal.
Yeah. So I was just remembering things about my childhood. Like not very important things, like just funny little things. And then some symbolism I saw with a big moth. But it was decorative and it was made of this metal filigree with inlays of amethyst stones in this big moth. But it was like a piece of jewelry almost. And that was the first like symbolism that I saw. And then the moth turned into a massive big antique key, also with this metal with filigree and amethyst inlays. So it was the moth and then it was the key.
Was it very colourful and bright?
Yes, like super real. But
so it's like you say, a waking dream.
Yeah. I was looking at these objects like, wow.
So it was like, wow.
And it's like jewelry, and it's like, ancient.
Okay.
Yeah, no. It was just like ancient, beautiful moth with amethyst in the wings. And then the moth changed into a big key, like this ancient old key with this filigree metal and precious stones like amethyst stones. And that was a bit of symbolism.
Yeah. The key.
Yeah, the key.
So this stage,
So that was about 6 hours after I started with the medicine.
So it takes a while.
Yeah, it takes a while.
To get up to that stage. So it's not like a sudden thing.
No. It gradually goes into your dream state, into the medicine state, into.
So it's like dropping acid and suddenly your mind.
No.
Okay. So it's a gentle.
It's very gentle. Okay. It's very gentle in the beginning. It started like very gentle, like my pets when I was little, like beautiful imagery, and then it started like getting fast, like speeding up, like a runaway train. And it was just like screenshots of my life, but it was like a movie that was on turbo, and I could barely make out anything. It was just like fast, like a fast movie with clips every now and then, like stopping, and sometimes it would slow down. It would be like a book, like a photo album of my own life. And it was very fast. And I got a bit scared in the sense like, how am I going to remember all of this? This is just too fast. It's just too much.
So it wasn't a bad fear.
It was just like...
Yeah. So you're very present while you're singing that?
Yeah. I mean, your body is like, I'm just like lying there. And I wasn't really scared, like fearful. I was just felt a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because it happened so fast. Like,
So you've been hours just lying in your bed?
Yeah, the whole night.
So you don't have to get up and you don't have the feeling that you need to get up and
No. At some stage I needed to go to the toilet and there was nobody to help me walk there, so I had to crawl there.
Oh, that sounds scary to me.
Yeah, that was pretty intense. But luckily only once. And I didn't purge. Because I was so clean, there was nothing to purge in my stomach. And then the next morning, or the next minute, I could hear the birds outside. I realized,
did you have a concept of time at all?
No. It felt like months.
Yeah.
It felt like a crazy couple of months, like days, weeks, just like watching this crazy, just like fast movies, just going like fast, turbo fast.
That's nice.
So it was like a little bit overwhelming, but not scary, not at all. And then when I heard the birds outside, it was like, I felt so relieved. And I realized I made it. The day starting. And the sun came up and I felt quite weak, and quite emotional, a bit teary and overwhelmed a little bit.
Were you kind of back in reality then?
Yeah.
Did you feel a sense of euphoria, happiness?
Oh, no. It was a tremendous amount of...
What the fuck?
No,
Really?
just like I felt so weak. I felt physically exhausted.
And mentally,
I
honestly.
felt like I just ran a marathon. My body was so weak, it felt like a train ran over me. I felt like I couldn't move. I felt like I wanted to cry. I cried a lot that day. Just for everything. I was a little bit angry.
So that was a bit of a kind of a, because the only journey, I haven't done it a lot. I've by chance did one or two things, but I did one very powerful San Pedro thing, and I remember also after it let go, I just also cried. But it was a tremendous relief, crying of relief, and then I felt a lot of joy for many hours. Is it similar?
That was in the morning. I was feeling very weak, and then they brought me something to eat and something to drink. But I was a little bit angry at myself, like, what if I put myself through? Because I felt so weak, and nobody told me that I was going to feel this horrible, physically weak.
And you were fit, right?
Yeah. So it was a very, I had to deal with feeling so weak and not feeling strong at all. And nobody told me that I was going to feel so weak. But later on in the afternoon, and after eating something small and drinking a lot of liquid, I started feeling my strength return. And I could at least walk to the bathroom on my own without feeling too shaky. And that's when, I think it was only the third day, maybe the fourth day afterwards, that I started feeling that my feet has actually just landed on the ground again. Because I felt like I knew nothing after my first journey. I basically knew my name was ANITA, that was about it.
So it's like a
completely
reset.
Nothing. I felt like a blank page, like a pure white page in an open book, and the book was just lying there, and I was the book. And I didn't want to speak to anybody. And people came and speak to me, and it was really irritating me. Just like, leave me alone. That's just me. That was my first journey. I just felt like an open book, like clear, like nothing. I knew nothing. I was nothing. Nothing mattered, and I was hovering.
Is it possible to use the word the humbling experience kind of? Not really?
Yeah. I think on the third day when I started gaining my strength back, and third day, fourth day, I landed with my feet on the ground again, and I started remembering a little bit more than just my name. I started remembering my journey, what happened during the journey, which I couldn't really put my finger on except for the few things that I told you now. But it wasn't like anything specifically that I could put my finger, but I did feel tremendously humble and joyful to be alive.
Yeah.
to be alive and actually survive that night.
See, that is the thing, it's not a rational experience at all, it's very far from rational. And so there's no words really.
No words except for being extremely humble and joyful to be alive. Extreme gratitude. The fourth day, the joy started coming and my strength started coming back, returning, and I felt like I was in my early 20s again. Physically strong, sober mind, level-headed, full of bright ideas.
It's like cobwebs. God.
Nothing of the past, no more abuse, no issues, no needs.
Just like that,
I didn't want to smoke, I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to have breakfast or lunch, I just wanted to eat when I'm hungry.
And did you feel like thankful?
Just grateful to be alive.
Wow. And for experience.
Yeah, and that's when I realized, bye-bye city, bye-bye corporate, bye-bye money, bye-bye everybody. This is what I want to commit my life to. I want to learn more about what I've just experienced.
That's what I want to bring it back to. Do you think then you connected again to your younger self, having this awareness about plants and poles and that thing that you come back?
Yeah, that eagerness to live, that eagerness to learn more returned.
That sounds like a great experience.
Yeah, it was.
It sounds like every now and then I think I've become so jaded and I'm so cynical about life. So that is like a reset.
Yeah. I was reset from not being a victim, losing my job, not being a failure, burglared, abused, all the bad things.
And then you realize this is something you want to get involved in.
I wanted to know everything about this IBOGA medicine. And I was very grateful because my friends needed somebody to assist them.
And the fact that you probably then saw in retrospect that all the stuff you went through kind of prepared you to do this thing. Because you understand trauma, you went through that. You have to understand what trauma is in real life is before you can try and help other people. I think it's very important. You have to go through that.
Yeah.
So you were almost like, it's like your training started like years before already.
Yeah. I can't really put my finger on when the training started. It's just like being a search for life and search for more than just what's here. There must be more to life than just this.
But I'm seeing now this cycle, which is fascinating for me. It's like, we're all young. I think about this often. When you're young, the music is beautiful. Obviously, you have your insecurities and your teenage depression, but the movies are so profound, and you have these ideas and dreams about the world, and life is ahead of you, and it's all amazing, and all the things are going to happen to you because you're kind of special and you're awesome. And you go skydiving, and you go party, and you have loves of your life, and you discover new stuff, and then, like any good movie, Act 2, things start unraveling. And then you have to get back, Act 3. Now you are on the hero's journey, you went through the catharsis, and now from there, the resolve came, and now it's a new lease on life, and you've got a new direction.
Yes, I was born again. I had a clean slate in front of me after that first journey.
Isn't it fascinating, like the same story repeats itself in all facets of life? This 3-act part, like any good film, that's so fascinating.
Well, it's like I believe that life is it's like a wheel. We go up and then we achieve, and then sometimes we go down again. And that's the cycles of life, even in nature. It's never just summer or spring, beautiful spring and summer. Then it goes into autumn and it goes into winter, and everything have to rest. And then the spring come again and becomes summer. Yeah. And that's nature, that's the cycles of life. So, sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down. Yeah. As long as the downs are not as low as the previous downs. And that's what I aspire to become better. Yeah. And live happier.
And other people go the opposite direction, they go to the dark side.
Well, I was also on the dark side.
So now we're on this new lease on life, and you want to work with this. So how do you start working? When are you allowed, or can you allow yourself to help other people? Did you start immediately, or did you have
No.
to full experience?
So at the first retreat, I was only helping with the detoxes, making the juices and the tinctures and supplements and assisting the people in the saunas and taking them for walks and attending to the garden and staying in a caravan with my cats halfway up the mountain because that was the only space for me.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Only space for me staying in a caravan from the city to in a caravan was quite fun.
The people that took you on your first journey, did you tell them, listen, man, I want to learn more, kind of stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
So, how long did that phase last?
I was there for just under a year, I think. And then I got an opportunity at another retreat space.
Before we get there, so through this first year, did you feel your compassion for other people develop? If you see the people coming in and taking ibogaine, they change. Did you feel a more compassion to people or to humans in general, or was it not like that? Am I romanticizing this?
No, you're right. I've always felt very much compassion towards people. There were periods of my life in my heavy, dark days when I didn't maybe feel that much compassion towards people.
Yeah.
But since I was born, I was always very compassionate towards people. There was maybe a few years gap when I was like spiraling down myself that I didn't feel compassion for people. I've always felt a lot of compassion for people, especially people in need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is part of your nature.
Yes. So I think that's when I moved to the second retreat. You asked me how did I learn? I learned as I went along. But I didn't work with the medicine directly at the first space. I didn't work with iboga medicine directly. But it was then at the second retreat, I started holding space with the medicine, serving the medicine, after observing how it gets done. So at the second retreat, I was very privileged to work with a psychologist, and I was her right hand, and I started learning a lot more about the psychology of people. And
which is a very important part, obviously.
yes, so that is the academic side of learning people's behaviors and actions, and the influence of trauma shaping our realities from a psychological point of view. And I was learning so much, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Working with her, and yeah, starting to serve the medicine under her, serving the medicine to people that came in, healing, looking for healing, looking for change in their lives, where I was like the year before.
But this is an important thing. So the person that you basically learned from was a psychologist.
Yes.
Okay, and so that already gives you the backing for the whole thing. It's like if a legit psychologist can see that this works.
Yes.
Because there's a big thing now in the world, a lot of things are changing towards that, but we'll get there.
So yeah, and then I think I did my third journey shortly in that second year, my third journey. And that was my second journey, pardon. My second journey. And that was breakthrough. That is, I took a much higher dose of the medicine as well. And it was ibogaine as well, iboga and ibogaine, which was the PTA, the plant total alkaloid. So it's much stronger and a lot more vivid. And in my journey, my second journey, I actually encountered my abusive boyfriend again in the journey.
It must have been scary.
No. So with the iboga medicine, you can really interact quite a bit. So what happened in my second journey, about the 5th, 6th hour into the journey, a door came up on my right-hand side, and I heard a lot of fighting and screaming and stuff breaking behind the door, and I knew it was me and him, because it was a very volatile 8 years relationship. And I turned my head towards the left, and I didn't want to open the door. And other stuff happened, and I saw other stuff, and then the next minute the door came up on my right hand side again, and I turned my head to the left, and I didn't want to engage, and I didn't want to open the door.
Your choice.
Yeah, just like the door, I'm not going to open it. It's just me and him fighting. It's like, and then the third time the door came up, I said, Anita, this is why I'm doing this journey. Yeah. This is why I'm taking this medicine. Open the door. And I opened the door, and I was looking down, like from up there, down at myself, standing here, but I was Wonder Woman. I had a red cape on, and I was a cartoon figure. I had a red cape on, and I had boots on, and a cartoon figure, and I had blonde hair, like Wonder Woman, and I had a nice big gun in my hand. And I love shooting, and I'm very good at it. And he was standing like quite close by, and he was shouting at me. But I was a cartoon figure, so I felt nothing, because a cartoon figure has got no feelings. It's just a script. It's just a comedy. It's just a movie, a cartoon movie. And he was screaming at me, and I aimed the gun at his head, and I pulled the trigger. Bah! And his head was right off. And I felt the blood on my arms, like a cartoon figure. Blood. I saw the blood on the cartoon figure's arms. And it's like, cool. Like, like cartoons, it's like, blood. And then the next minute it was like, turn the page, and it was gone. It's like next, something else. Just like.
And how many years later was this after effect?
Sure. I don't know, maybe about 15 years.
Sure. So all that time, and that was a resolve in those moments.
Well, I had to wipe him off the earth for what he did to me, but what I allowed him to do to me, and what I allowed myself to experience. Yeah. So.
Was there a sense of forgiveness at all?
No, I was just a cartoon. Remember, it was just like a cartoon.
Yeah.
Like a cartoon.
It's not real.
No, it's not real. No. And it was just like a few seconds. And the next one was like turn the page, and it's like something else happened, and that was it. And the journey carried on, and the next day I felt fragile again and felt empty. And then 3-4 days later, after I slept a little bit, because you don't sleep at all for like 48 hours or 36 hours. That first night you don't sleep. The second night, maybe you drift off a little bit, and a lot of realizations started coming up. But by the third day, I realized like, wow, I feel so light. Because the motherfucker is dead.
Yeah.
And I took charge of my life. He's no more existence. And that was fantastic. And all my intentions that I put before the journey on a personal level, within weeks, started happening like this. Clearing space with my parents. My relationship with my parents started lifting tremendously, clearing up, and just that absolute lightness of being. That was my second journey. And so I started and I've still served the medicine for others. And some time went past, and I think it was about 6 months later, I met a guy, a younger guy, much younger than me. Well, in Northwest, there's not many options of men. So he was much younger than me, and we engaged, like in a relationship. Not very serious, for about 6 months. And then I met another guy. And that I really felt quite loved and engaged, and
very different from
different from the young guy and from any of my previous relationships. And
do you think you attracted that person because you chose also?
Yeah, because I actually I didn't have all that serious protective walls around me that I had around me for I think most of my life. Not trusting men, seriously close by, engaging.
Yeah.
And that was quite special. Yeah. And that was almost a 5-year relationship.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so, where are we now? You did your first thing, and then how regularly after that you do it? When did you go completely on your own?
2014. So about 4 years I worked for other retreats. And then 2017, I must say, I collapsed on we call it compassion fatigue. We were working hard, like sometimes 4 or sometimes 6 clients a week.
It's all about
Monday
them
to
and
Friday,
their stuff.
Monday to Saturday, January to December, January to December, January to December, 3 years. And eventually like, wow, who am I again? Oh, and in the retreats, a lot of things dissolved as well. And that's when I decided, I'm out of here. This is enough. This is now enough. Who am I again? And I actually had the privilege of working and staying at a Buddhist retreat in 2017. So I took a 9 months break.
Where was this?
In Northwest Province as well.
Oh.
And I had to find myself again. I had to remember, who am I again? Who am I?
Because you've given
So much to other people. That's actually, when my partner and I was at the Buddhist retreat actually when I met him. I was at the Buddhist retreat when I met him. And 9 months at the Buddhist retreat, and then I realized the medicine is calling me again. I want to work with people. I want to serve. I know who I am. And the medicine called me again. So in January 2018, I went back to the retreat space, and I was very privileged, very blessed. Excuse. Very privileged to have sessions with a life coach. And she said to me, from the second session we had, why don't you open your own retreat space? Why don't you go on your own? You're strong enough. And I said, what, are you out of your mind? Little me, are you? Never. And she drilled me, She
always saw that you can do it.
Yeah. And I think I had about maybe 6 sessions with me, and I dreaded every session with her because she was hard on me,
Yeah.
And she was forcing me to stand up for myself and take my power and stand in to transition, to step up.
You needed that to get over that fear of going on your own.
Yes.
You need somebody to give you that.
Yes, that push.
But I want to get back before we go on there,
Sure.
before we get too far away.
Yes.
Because, especially in our Western society, a lot of service industries and other businesses is all about what I do for me to get money so I can pay for my family and what I need to pay for. It's all about me, really. So I'm giving you the service, but you're buying the service and you're giving me money and buy. But this is self-service. You have to actually really give yourself to people, and you're actually really serving people. So it's a bit of a different mentality than just selling a product or just being a doctor and looking at somebody's symptoms. You have to be focused on the people that come to you, and it's about them and their trauma. So you have to give up a lot of yourself.
Yeah.
Is this a correct assessment?
While holding space for other people with the medicine, and then afterwards, in the few days afterwards, in the recovery after the medicine, I just you become like an empty vessel, just to hold them safe and loved and cared for, and just to hold them where they are and meet them where they are. But it didn't stop there. So people would come, do the medicine, leave 4 or 5 days later, but I still stayed in touch with them, because I built relationship with people. And because if people are vulnerable, to hold space for them is quite special. And
they trust you
and
tremendously.
they're trusting me, yeah. And that's where I felt what was short. So I still stayed in touch with with the clients at that stage. And then the life coach and 2018. And then the universe just, ouch, crikey, conspired to it that
There you go.
Exclusive IBOGAINE Retreats was born in August, 1st September 2018.
And how did
Gave
your first client come to you?
Well, we had a website. We designed a website, had a website design, and our first client came in December 2018, and he was from Mauritius. And then after that, a lot of clients came from Mauritius.
And because I saw one of your feedbacks from a person, and that you could just see how positive and thankful they are for the experience. So let's talk now about your retreat. And take me through the steps how you do it, and maybe what's different, what your settings, and what is your preferred. I'm assuming everybody does it a bit differently.
Yes.
Okay, what's your...
So I'm not a
your spice?
psychologist. I'm not a psychologist, but I've got a very true passion for people and a true resonance, and I really care about people. So if somebody reach out to me, call me, WhatsApp, email me, it's people in need in general. And whether it is serious need, whether it's drug addiction or alcohol addiction or trauma similar to mine, or maybe just crossroads in their lives or burnout, they called me. So there is a reason why our paths have crossed.
On that point, is it often that all else fails and now we have to try this? No.
No, not always.
Not always.
No. And that is what I've, after 10 years working with the medicine, I've realized that, 2004, 2018, where are we now? 8 years later. 8 years later of holding space on my own hands, with the medicine, with people. It's only a third of our clients that come in for drug addiction. Only a third of our clients come in for prescription medication addiction, that they realize they want to get off pharma. And a third of clients are on no medication, no drugs, psychospiritual. They want to have a reset, resolve issues, small issues that's holding them back, or maybe just come at midlife crisis or crossroads in their lives, like I was at the age of 39.
Gain insight. It sounds like a wonderful thing to just gain insight in your own psychology.
Yeah, in your own life.
How many of these things are in South Africa, these types of retreats? Probably not a lot, because ibogaine is not like that well known, right?
Well, ibogaine is only legal in 5 countries in the world.
Okay.
And in South Africa, it is regulated. So, legal, regulated, it is not illegal. It's a Schedule 6 medicine. So, we need to have it, when I serve the medicine, it is under medical supervision.
Okay. So, it's all legal above board stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So, do you register as a...
I'm registered with the African National Healers Association.
Right.
Yes.
So let's compare a bit, because it's a big fashion now. People go to South America and they do ayahuasca, San Pedro, mushrooms, and all of this stuff. It's popping up now. I watch a lot of war veterans and their stories. So how do they differ from each other? What makes ibogaine separate?
That's a very good question, and I'm very glad to say that iboga is from the African continent.
Yeah, we've got our own medicine here.
Yes, our own medicine. Iboga, the root medicine, the sacred root medicine, is from Africa. And we are in the tip of Africa, in the Cape Province. How it differ from, say, ayahuasca.
Yes.
So, ayahuasca is a very psychedelic journey, and there's a lot of interpretation that needs to be done. It's a very outward journey into consciousness, into cosmic space, might meet heavenly beings or strange things. And there's a lot of interpretation that needs to be done after an ayahuasca journey, psilocybin journey, San Pedro journey, and it's very much a journey outwards. And also the effects, the afterglow of any of those medicines are short-lived, a week, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's why after I've done all those journeys, was great and enlightened, but 4 or 5 weeks later, I'm still stuck in my own thought patterns than I was, until ibogaine, and I realized, but it's not just a week or 4 weeks, and I'm still feeling great, and I'm still feeling supercharged, and I'm without all my trauma. I'm not a victim anymore. Everything is okay. Life is really great, because ibogaine is a journey inwards. It's not very much psychedelic.
Yeah.
It is stuff that has happened to you in your life that you revisit, objectively removed from it, and that you are able to forgive and forget everything and everybody that has done you wrong, or that you have chosen those traumatic experiences. And that is the difference, I believe, with ibogaine being a very real life release, letting go of the past.
I have spoken to a few people before, and there is this misconception about, especially if you start using words like plant medicine and holding space. So there's this thing that it's a bunch of hippies tripping on stuff and they don't know what they're doing and they're damaging themselves and it's like not good for you and they can't relate and cope with society anymore. They're going to sit in the bush or in a jungle and trip. And so there is this misconception of society in general that it's more a thing like freaky hippies do in the forest. So, but what you're telling me, this is a full-on, obviously a professional setup geared towards psychology in a very healing and professional way. We need to clear that misconception.
Well, I think we need to go back a little bit further back in the 70s and 80s. The psychedelic renaissance happened where there was a lot of studies being done on LSD, psilocybin, MDMA, Johns Hopkins universities and many other universities, Timothy Leary and many other highly academic people that research on these mind-altering substances. We say substance. A substance is something that is man-made in a laboratory. Medicine is natural, like psilocybin is natural from God, from nature, from the soil. Ibogaine is natural from a plant, a root, the bark of a root. And then society and government clamped down and they stopped the research in the late 1980s. All the research was stopped and there's many speculations why. Yes, there was deaths. There's deaths every day, whether it's overdoses, whether it is by accident, whether it is of alcohol, whether it's of heart attacks. Deaths happen in any way. Nobody live forever. But also there was this big awakening even in the 80s that there's more to life. And with these psychedelic medicines, that actually, if you go back and research, has even been used in the Bible times. Since the beginning of times, people have been taking plants, fruit from plants that has put them in a dream state.
Oh. Egypt, all of that.
Egypt, all through history, Graham Hancock, I'm reading at the moment, supernatural trance states, whether it is by repetitive dancing around a fire or ingesting some kind of a liquid, half a poison that can kill you in high quantities.
South America as well.
Yeah,
this is very well established nowadays.
Yes. You asked me earlier how many facilities are in South Africa that do it under medical supervision. Mm-hmm. I know of myself and one other institution, one other retreat space that do it under medical supervision.
So it's quite specialized and
yeah. There is other places in South Africa where you can do it in a ceremony setup with 12 or 15 or 20 or 30 people, but they don't they give people a very low dose of the iboga medicine, because in high dose it needs to be in a controlled environment.
On this point, as a creative and a bit of a fringe artist, on the side, looking at society, personally, I see, if you look at the news and the soapies and what are people's conversations on Facebook, I see pretty much a traumatized society and a toxic society, but it's been normalized. So we believe, the mainstream society believe this is normal, this is the way we're supposed to act, we're supposed to cause all this drama, and this is actually normal. But if you do something like this weird medicine, that is abnormal. But it's actually kind of the wrong way around, isn't it? You know? Because most people I meet that work in alternative medicine like you are very sane and rational people that have a very open-minded and much more compassionate view on life, and they treat their fellow beings normally much better than the average human, you know, shitting on somebody else's head on Facebook in argument. Sure. So I think we live in a kind of upside-down society in a way, you know, on a philosophical
No, you're right.
often, yeah.
You're very right. And actually, to go back to what you said earlier about life expectancy in our 21st century is so much longer. Yes, true. But where's the state of happiness? Is there compassion between people like there was before www, Google, cell phones, internet, when kids were still kids, when we could play in the streets and ride our bicycles, and that was joy. That was happiness. There was compassion, there was care, there was connection.
Yeah. Yeah, I think every age has its good and its bads, but from a personal point of view, I know in a space I feel more comfortable. If I look at general society now and what is going on in the world, I almost just want to hide. I don't want to be involved in it because, I mean, you don't have a choice, but as little as possible, because it is a traumatic experience in a way. You know, people are really, really nasty to each other, and I cannot believe this is the way things are supposed to be. But that's a bit of a sideline now. I think people also have a few fears about this stuff. So I have, because I've never done it. Somebody asked me, will you do IBOGA? And I said, no way, I'm too shit scared. I'm not going to do that. So has anybody ever gone like psychotic or something in any retreat? Have you ever seen people going off the rails and getting damaged?
So there's a few exclusion criteria for people wanting to do ibogaine medicine. And that is people battling with schizophrenia, multiple personality disorders, bipolar, certain kinds of bipolar, sleep apnea, people that have to sleep with oxygen, can't. So those are the exclusion criteria for people that can't do ibogaine, because it might induce what we call permanent psychosis. And I have
That's a scary thing, eh?
Yes. So I have, in the last 10 years, I've encountered 4 people like that, and we suggested them that they don't do ibogaine. Maybe go on microdosing psilocybin or something else, and I refer them to people to go and see them, but not ibogaine. And I've never seen people go permanently psychotic afterwards at all.
Okay.
No.
So it's comparatively to self-medication like alcohol and other drugs, it's actually pretty safe.
Yes. I have to say, because of the magnitude and the strength and the power of this iboga medicine, it is not advisable to do it on your own at home.
Yeah.
Because it does affect the heart rate tremendously. Your vitals go higher, and then your vitals go lower. You need somebody to see that you are in a safe space, that you trust the people that you are with for the ultimate best experience, that you trust the people that you are with. I've heard lots of feedback from other people that has done it in settings and with people that they did not feel comfortable with, and they didn't have, of course, a rewarding or a beautiful experience like afterwards. They didn't feel enriched, they didn't feel enlightened, they didn't feel better, they didn't feel lighter, they didn't feel that the medicine was beneficial to them. So it can, to a certain extent, yeah, they felt better, but that there were certain things, like in everything in life, you need to be specific about where you go, and always trust your intuition, your gut, and resonate, people that you resonate with.
But I think, like, I always thought like maybe one day I should go to the jungle and do ayahuasca, but now I think, man, I'm an African, and this is for African. I resonate with Africanness. So we can do ibogaine here. You don't need to fly to South America in the jungle to go get your healing thing.
Yes, yes.
And I want to ask more about the client base. How many South Africans versus people from overseas?
It's about half-half.
And where do most people come from? Is there a specific type of person that gravitates, or nationality that gravitates to this? No.
From time to time, in the beginning there was a lot of people from Mauritius that came, and that was hard. That was very difficult clients because they were usually on heroin. Heroin is quite a difficult addiction to break, and it's not just a one-night journey, it's a one-night treatment. It's probably a booster treatment on the 3rd, 4th, 5th day, and it's usually a 6-day journey, a 6-day retreat. Heroin and crystal meth is difficult ones. Recently, since the lockdown, the last 3 years, we've had a lot of clients from up in Lusaka, the Copperbelt, up in Africa, Nairobi, yeah. And I think it's word of mouth a lot. A lot of people from Dubai, Emirates, San Francisco, Colorado. Yeah.
I also want to get back to, like you say, I think I've heard you say before, you never take more than 3 people, so it's like 1 on 1 or 2 or 3 people.
Yes.
So explain the rationale behind that.
I found that 3 people being the maximum is just, so if there is 3 clients, then I've got another 1 or 2 facilitators with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there has to be a very close facilitation.
Yeah, yeah. Just so that each person can feel safe and held and not neglected. And it is also, 3 people. If there's 4 or 5, it's not a job. It's not a social get-together. It's not sit around and make jokes at the retreat. It is quite serious. It is very introspective. You get more from the medicine afterwards if you actually spend it on your own time, on your own. Not too much interaction, not too much stimulation, not too much things to do.
So it's not an after party, it's after retreat.
It's after going into finding yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, I'm assuming you explain this to everybody very carefully. And tell me, your process, like we talked about that a bit earlier, so everybody, do they get their own room or a mattress in the corner, or you cook for them, or what that?
Okay, so at my retreats, everybody's got their own bedroom, their own ensuite bathroom, because during the night of the journey, you can't really walk very far. You don't have much motorical skills.
So it's not a bucket next to the bed.
There is a bucket next to the bed, and very few of our clients actually need the bucket. Because if you detox properly before the time, and if you move slowly, it's like 1 out of 10 clients that may be purged. Purged meaning like vomit. And it's not a bucket full like in ayahuasca, like for the whole night that you purge. It's usually like once or twice. And then it's very often more like emotional release as well. Yes, the medicine is hard on your stomach, but it's more like emotional release, especially those that take. If you move fast from lying down to sitting up, you will purge. But the healing is so amazing. Sorry, you asked about my retreats.
Yeah, the way you do it.
So, 3 people at a time, or a lot of people recently has requested one-on-ones because they're very private. Celebrities, people in high positions, and they want to keep it private. Like no cameras, no photos, nobody knows who they are, where they are, and that is really beautiful because there is nobody to talk to, nobody to chit chat and share, and that I believe that's when the healing happens. When you're on your own, and after the journey, you've got time to spend with just yourself. I make beautiful food for them 3 times a day. I take their morning snacks and afternoon snacks, and we talk when they are ready.
So you've like food when they need it. What I found for a few experiences that I had, I don't want to speak to anybody. I just want to be on my own head. So, but I also noticed, like, I spent a night here last night before we did this today, and I saw the lighting that you have here was really cool, and that's so important. People miss that. Good lighting. You don't want bright lights. You want a comfortable, shady.
It's like you want to feel. You don't want bright lights in your eyes. No.
It's very distracting.
You feel comfortable and safe when it's dim lights, whether it's candlelight or at my retreats. Well, during the night of the journey, it's dark in your room. You'll get your own eye mask. In the bathroom, there's a candle. And lighting is important.
Yeah, the small details. It's all setting mood.
Yeah.
So setting the mood.
But also, after the journey, like you say, you just want to spend time on your own. So before the journey, for those that has gone through severe traumatic experiences or battling with a lot of difficult psychological issues like depression, anxiety, suicidal notions. I put them in touch with, I've got quite a few, I've got a transformational coach, I've got a traditional Chinese medicine, I've got a couple of facilitators or counselors that they can speak with. People battling with bulimia and anorexia will work with one of my other professional people to afterwards, before the time and also afterwards. Because after the journey is really when the real work starts.
And you have to process the whole thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, so you ask also the process. So the process when coming to our retreats is before the time you start with completing our online form. It's a long medical form. It's lengthy because ibogaine is legal in South Africa. We need to have your full medical history. We need to have the history of your heart. You need to go for a liver and for a stress ECG that's running on a treadmill. You need to go for a liver and kidney function test. The iboga medicine gets metabolized in the liver. So if you've got a toxic liver, the medicine is probably going to go straight through your body and you're not going to experience much at all. So if your liver is in a toxic or abnormal condition, then I'm going to give you a list of natural support supplements to rebuild your liver and strengthen your liver. For those people that are alcoholics, they have to book into a sober house facility for 10 days because they cannot drink for 10 days before an ibogaine journey if their livers are okay and healthy. Yeah, I've had people that had such severe liver damage that had to cut down on the drinking and take liver support supplements for 6 months before their livers were better to come in for treatment. With our group retreats, with all the retreats, we do gentle meditation in the morning. We do gentle yoga once they've regained their strength again. We do a letter burning ceremony on the last night to let go everything of the past that they want to leave behind.
Tell me about the physical effects of ibogaine.
Okay. So we've spoken some of the psychological effect. During the journey, you might relive your trauma and afterwards you get the opportunity to let go of all the people that has done you wrong. So that's quite on an emotional and a psychological level what we spoke about then. So people ask what happens on a physical level during the night of the journey. On a physical level, I've mentioned that you experience ataxia. So ataxia is becoming one with the bed. You don't want to get up and go. If you want to go to the toilet, you're going to have shaky legs, possibly. That's why we assist you to go to the toilet. You might have depth perception. So there's a glass of water, a bottle of water next to your bed. So you've got depth perception. So when you walk, you think the door is there, and meantime the door is there. Depth perception. All your senses are heightened. Your sight, that's why we give you an eye mask. Your hearing is enhanced. You might experience raised body temperature, like sweating, slight trembles, but nothing severe.
No.
On a physical level, what the medicine does to the brain, the receptors in your brain gets reconnected. So as we age, we lose our drive, our motivation to live, to get out of bed. We lose our enthusiasm, our vuma.
So lose a 45.
And you just want to give up and everything is just too much. So with this iboga medicine, all your brain receptors gets pulled together again and reconnected again. Your serotonin, your dopamine, which is your feel good and your reward hormones, your hormones, your metabolism, people even battling to conceive, men with erectile dysfunction.
Testosterone as well.
Everything gets
I need to do this, man.
Everything gets reset, sex
right.
drive back. We've had ladies that fell pregnant, like within a year after the iboga journey. It is just an all-over reset that you regain your zest for life again. So with your receptors back, people battling with sleep issues, so your melatonin, your gut, everything gets reset to a pre-addictive or pre-trauma state. And that's why you feel 10 years, 20 years younger, lighter, better.
Yeah, I think we forget that the psychological and the physical is very connected.
They're all connected.
But the other thing, just a bit more interesting little fact we talked about, I asked you the other day, is it a male or female energy? Because I know San Pedro is very male. I felt when I did my San Pedro thing, I felt like this worked for me. Because it was, for me, it was kind of a strict medicine that held you to account, but it just took you so far and then it let you go a little bit. You know? That was my experience of it. And you say this is like the grandfather. That's what you say. Let's talk about that.
So, from my own experience and my own research, which is constant, the IBOGA medicine is the grandfather medicine. So, how I've encountered the grandfather, the IBOGA spirit was, it's like an old man with open arms, like my grandfather, ancient, but he had a stick. That's how I encountered the IBOGA spirit, the IBOGA energy. And it was an old elder, but he had open arms, loving, caring, but with a stick and stern eyes. So he's caring and he will hold you.
But it's not taking any no shit.
No shit. Yeah. Because with the IBOGA journey, you really get the opportunity to stand face to face with yourself. Like this. With your own bullshit.
Yeah.
All your pain, all your heartache, everything that has gone wrong and wrong decisions that you've made, that you need to take charge. Yeah. And you need to look at your own bullshit.
Yeah. I think that's the scariest part, because you don't know always what bullshit you might suspect. But the other thing I wanted to ask is, the idea that, do you know anything about the history, how they discovered IBOGA? How did they get to this, like this works?
Well, there's many speculations, and I've read numerous different accounts. So, thousands of generations ago, when people were still living in tribes, there was this tribe member that hunted a porcupine. And he took it home, and his wife, they cleaned it, and they put it in a pot, and they ate it. And that night, they had these vivid dreams about their lives. And the next day, they looked at each other like, what was that? What happened? So that they didn't have their phones to Google what happened to us. They were living very close to nature. Yeah. So they thought, okay.
They knew something happened.
Something strange happened last night. What did we do? Yeah. So they ate a porcupine. So the guy, the tribesman, possibly went back to the forest where he hunted this porcupine, and he probably sat there for days or weeks or months observing these porcupines and their behavior, watched their behaviors. And he was observing them in Gabon or Cameroon in Africa, that they were scratching and eating the roots of this shrub, which is like a few meters high, a few meters wide, with shiny green leaves with these orange fruit seeds on it. And they did, so they ate what the porcupines ate. Okay. Ate the roots, and I suppose experimented with it.
So the porcupine can be like a symbol for IBOGAINE.
Well, that's all.
Get a porcupine tattoo.
Well, now that I'm reading Graham Hancock, there's a lot of other interpretations again, but I'll have to come back to you on that one.
Oh, that's a good story. But also, I want to ask this IBOGAINE, can it be grown here? Do you import it? How does that work?
Okay, so a lot of people ask me that. Because it grows naturally, close to the equator, at the equator basically, close to the equator. How do you mimic that environment? In a hothouse? Okay, fantastic. You can possibly mimic the temperature, but can you mimic the soil, the same bird insect life like in Gabon over here. So you might be able to grow the medicine, the plants, in a hothouse for 15, 25 years, but will it have the same potency as when it comes from Gabon?
So you're saying you get all your stuff from there?
Yeah.
Okay. Comes in the dried form or whatever?
It comes in the bark form,
Okay,
in the bark.
So we're just talking about what people would like to possibly know about iboga. We're getting to the end of the podcast, so we're just giving information. And is it addictive?
You know, when people refer to iboga as a drug, I don't agree with that. Like I said earlier, it's medicine. It heals you. It's not detrimental. It's not such a fun thing to do that you want to do it every day.
You're not going to go out to the bar and...
No, you don't want to even do it like maybe once a year.
Yeah.
No, because it's quite intense and it's hectic. It's very hectic. That being said, I've had people, the most hardcore addicts, that came in and saw butterflies in their room the whole night and encountered and revisit their grandma that passed away or a sibling that passed away, and that they made peace with them. So that you can also... is it a drug? No, it's not a drug. It's a medicine.
Not physically addictive
It's not
at
physically.
all, obviously.
No. You can't. You don't want to do it tomorrow or even next weekend.
Yeah,
No.
you're going to get like a tracking suit.
No.
Give me more iboga.
No.
Where's my iboga, dear?
What we also do, we supply iboga microdosing.
Yeah.
So that is a very low quantity of iboga.
I want to try that, by the way.
Yeah, we can speak about it. It's just in capsule forms, and according to your body weight, I make some suggestions. And microdose microdose is very subtle. You can still function during the day. You can still go about your normal day. You take it once every 4 days. So I usually suggest a Monday and a Thursday. And even the days in between, the Tuesday and the Wednesday, you still feel great. You feel in tune, you feel centered, grounded, you are able to focus. You can concentrate, your concentration is better. You don't stress about or worry about stuff that happened in the past. You're not anxious about what's happening in the future. You're just living right here, right now. And I believe being in the right here and right now is where the magic happens. That's where it's a gift to yourself and to life and to others if you're present in this moment.
This is another big thing we didn't talk about, because a lot of people on psychedelic experiences talk about the reality towards death that changes. Does iboga give you a sense of life and death, that whole scenario about what death is, and make people get peace maybe a bit on that? It does happen?
Absolutely. For certain people it's a big thing, about death or dying, the fear of dying. I have to say, with my experience with all plant medicines, that you get a better perspective about death. Because we are just... It's nothing to be scared of.
Well, it's as natural as life.
It is as natural as life. It gives you an urgency. I believe plant medicine gives you a different perspective about reality, not just 3D, 4D, 5D, call it whatever D you want to call it. Just that life becomes more precious after any plant medicine. But with the difference with iboga, it's a lot, the window of opportunity and that afterglow, literature say 6 to 8 to 10 months. I've seen it with some people, even that afterglow of 2 years or even 3 years. People that was on the verge of suicide, really on the verge of suicide, coming in for a journey, maybe 2 years later coming in for another journey, and now are excelling in their lives again.
For me, the older I get, the idea of my meaning in life becomes more important. And I think a lot of these things, with that perspective, you find a meaning in your life also. And another thing about being in now there's another compartment or a thing that goes with that is deeply understanding that everything is transient, that you are just moving. And this is just a phase you're moving through. And just being in that phase. I think the moment we attach too much to the dream, the D, which stands for dream, that we're actually living in this weird story we're building in our minds because we're living in our minds, then things become squirrely. And I think also the stuff helps you to like, let go a little bit, right?
True, absolutely. Yeah, it is just to become more aware. You know, if you, sorry, I've come to realize and to understand that IBOGA gives you the most sense of self-love and self-acceptance.
And that's a big problem for a lot of society.
Yeah.
Everybody, in a sense.
I believe, you know, we spoke about society being so disconnected because the world is such a fast place. The pressure is so much.
Yeah.
You know, social media and the Joneses and what you should and shouldn't and what gets frowned upon and what not. It is like, that's how we get disconnected. Plant medicine, IBOGA medicine, makes you to assists you to fall in love with yourself again. And fall in love with life again. And then everything is quite okay.
Yeah. And I think this brings us to a nice close to the podcast. And on that point, for the people who don't know, Free Wild World, Chris Wade, I am my brand. One of my basic principles in life, and the reason why I'm doing this, because I'm not making any money from this. I just have a passion to tell people stories and show the world. And the biggest reason, my biggest motivation is to be vulnerable for people to show that it's okay to be you and to be authentic of all your mistakes, all your bullshit, all your pain, and all your joy. And I think in this superficial world where it's all just smoke and mirror, we are losing that. And that's why I'm very thankful to be able to speak to people like you, to bring this, I don't know, maybe 10 people watch this, maybe 1,000, I don't know. But I think it's good to show the world that it's okay to be you and just be a human. And with all your vulnerabilities, the other guy that you think is so special and great, he's got his stuff as well. And we all have to struggle through this. And we're all living in the same little rock here, and we can't hide from each other.
Yeah.
Man, we have to make it work. I want to say thank you very much for Josh. We had this great luxury for Josh doing the sound. I will Google his stuff in here. Oh, not Google his stuff. I'll title his stuff in here. You can get all of him. He's been our rock here at the back, seeing that everything is going down. And I'll put your stuff on here as well so people can find you and experience this thing for themselves.
Thank you so much, Chris. I really enjoyed this time with you. And may many people realize that this life, we're not in this alone. You know, we are all going through the same stories.
Definitely.
And life can be so much better. You know, everything is going to be okay, and it can be better than okay, it can be brilliant.
Yeah, we can just start looking after each other, and that's why I'm going to give you the first one. Bye.
Bye, hello.